Welcome back. The largest single day of voting in the U.S. primary cycle. It's Super Tuesday, when millions of Americans across more than a dozen states and one U.S. territory head to the polls to decide the Republican and Democrat nominees for November's presidential election. Now, Super Tuesday is historically a defining moment for the White House race, but this election's frontrunners are all but guaranteed. Former President Donald Trump has been sweeping the GOP primary, maintaining a commanding lead over his sole rival, Nikki Haley. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden faces no real challenge within his Democratic Party. For more, Nick Harper joins us live. He is in Washington, D.C. Nick, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, they are very likely to face off in the presidential election in November. But are there any states on Super Tuesday that could hint perhaps at voting patterns that we're going to see at that time?
Well, Dawn, there certainly are. I mean, there are suggestions that this time around Super Tuesday perhaps won't be quite so super. It's certainly not the nail-biter it has been in other election cycles. Sometimes Super Tuesday really is the day when it becomes clear who will become the nominee for one particular party or the other. As you mentioned, at this stage, it looks very clear that Joe Biden and Donald Trump will have that rematch in November's presidential election. But it will be important in certain states to look at things like turnout and whether there's any signs of weakness for either of the two candidates. Now, two of the states that will certainly be in focus are Virginia and North Carolina. In northern parts of Virginia, there is a possibility there will be something of a protest vote against Donald Trump, votes instead going to Nikki Haley. This is an area just outside of Washington, D.C. It's more affluent, often more moderate rather than conservative voters in the suburbs that Donald Trump, of course, wants to target. And remember, Virginia is a state that he lost in the presidential election, both in 2016 and 2020. And there is a potential for Haley to pick up considerable votes in the northern part of Virginia. And then North Carolina, particularly important state for the Democrats come November. Biden lost it very narrowly 4 years ago. The Democrats are hoping to flip the state in November, and they'll be running on messages like abortion being restricted, the access of that, hoping to motivate voters today. However, if there is a low turnout with people just simply not going to the polls because they feel that Biden and Trump will become the nominees, it might suggest there is very little enthusiasm for those two candidates. It's those signs of weakness, I think, that will be watched tonight, especially in the turnout numbers when we get those results later on tonight.
We certainly will be, Nick. But also, Nikki Haley's had a recent victory in D.C. where you are. But so far, Nick, she refuses to drop out of this Republican nomination race. And that's despite consistently losing, of course, to Donald Trump. Does she stand a chance at all of becoming the GOP candidate?
Well, it seems not. And therefore, the question is, why is she still in the race? She has consistently said that she would remain in the race until Super Tuesday. There is still a question mark about exactly what she'll do after Super Tuesday, because the polls suggest she will not win any of the 15 states that are voting during the course of today. Without a big state win, there is a suggestion, therefore, that she might drop out. But there's also a possibility that she may stay in as long as possible. She has consistently said she wants to offer that alternative to Donald Trump. There are millions of Americans voting today, and therefore she says it's her duty to offer them an alternative. So perhaps she goes all the way through to the Republican Party convention in the summer, where she turns up and says, look, I've picked up delegates because perhaps 10, 20, 30% of electorates have voted for me in different states. And with those delegates, I feel that I should be challenging Donald Trump for the nomination of the party. She's also said that she, according to polls, would beat President Biden, whereas Donald Trump would lose once again. But there's also a chance that she's simply staying in the race, looking at the long game, looking at 2028, building a ground game, building support so that she can have another run at the White House in 4 years' time.
Well, the chips will fall where they may. Thank you very much for that, Nick. Nick Harper there in Washington, D.C.